I don't know why, but I love old operating systems made by Microsoft. I don't know what it is about them. Maybe it's the aesthetics or something, but I just love them so much. So, I am going to be ranking every single one of them. Also, I didn't use an emulator for this video. I just used like some web emulators, and some of the emulators are not very good, which is why they're missing a few features, so just wanted to let you know. Anyway, let's begin. Windows 1.0, the start of it all. Okay, what is this? This thing is so primitive that even my parents can't relate to this. What is this? So, yeah, it is not very good. It has a calculator, it has a notepad, and it has MS Paint. But this version of MS Paint sucks! I decided to draw a boy with a silly hat, but for some reason it just wouldn't save, and I was very sad about that because I gotta leave my boy behind. I'm so sorry. Rest in peace to my little guy. You will not be missed. Overall, this version was very, very primitive, so I'm going to have to put it into C tier. It wasn't very good. Windows 2.0. Wait, what did this version change? I mean, it's blue now, but basically, other than that, this is just a carbon copy of the original. So I guess I'll put it in the same tier as 1.0. I don't know, they're basically the same thing. Thank God for Windows 3.1, man. If I would have had to sit through another carbon copy of Windows 1.0, I think I would have lost it. Windows 3.1 is a lot prettier than the other versions, and I don't know why. It's just a bunch of solid colors, but for some reason, it's just so aesthetically pleasing. Also, some of you might be asking why I'm not covering 3.0, and well, it's because the colors are uglier. Here's where I live, come fight me. We have games! And I know there were games in the first few versions too, but those were not very good. We're not going to be talking about Solitaire, but we are going to be talking about Minesweeper. When I was growing up, I could never be able to beat Minesweeper, and I still can't. I do not know how to do it for the life of me. Like, just look at these sad attempts, bro. I actually have no idea what was going through my head when I was doing this. Also, MS Paint got an update. This time, it actually has color. Wow, I've been waiting for this for a long time. I drew another boy with a silly hat, and the same problem occurred where I just wasn't able to save it for some reason. And overall, I think I would give it a B tier. It was okay. So, I think it's time to move on to Windows 95. We finally made it. Windows 95. This version revolutionized operating systems, and it's all thanks to the Start menu. If the Start menu had never existed, I don't know what Windows would have become. Remember how I said that 3.1 added a lot new features? Well, this version added even more features, such as Internet Explorer. You can use the internet now. That's pretty cool. Also, Space Cadet Pinball. This is genuinely the most addicting game I've ever played. Like, you look at this and you probably see like a couple minutes worth of content, and then you actually play it, and it's worth 6 hours worth of content. Also, MS Paint got another update. You all know my go-to by now. It's a boy with a silly hat. Unlike the other versions, however, this time it actually saves, so that's another point to Windows 95. Overall, this might just be the easiest S tier of my life. Alright, so unfortunately, this next version we were not able to run. I do not know why, but I could just not figure out how to get it running for the life of me. I did not know the stupid administrator password. So, yeah, sorry. Anyway, this is Windows NT 4.0. It's basically the same as Windows 95, but with one key difference. Windows NT 4.0 runs on NT technology instead of MS-DOS. So basically, all these versions we've been talking about so far were actually just running on MS-DOS. However, Windows NT 4.0 runs on NT technology. But other than that, this is basically just a carbon copy of Windows 95. Remember how I put 2.0 in the same tier as 1.0 because it's basically the same? Yeah, I'm not feeling as generous today. B tier. Windows 98. This version was kind of funny and weird at the same time. I don't know, man. I don't know how to feel about this version. Right off the bat, I went into Paint and, you guessed it, I drew a boy with a silly hat. You cannot stop me. I discovered the weirdest executable file of all time. This is sheep.exe. Every time you double click it, it'll spawn a sheep. You can do this as many times as you want. So I decided to have 5 sheep on my screen, and Jesus, bro, these guys are actually so stupid. For some reason, every single time they fall, they either land on their butt or they land on their face. Also, for some reason, they did not have Space Cadet Pinball in this version, which I just don't understand. I was gonna give this version as S tier, but because it didn't have Space Cadet Pinball in it, I'm gonna have to move it to A tier. Windows 2000. This version is mid. This is another version that runs on NT technology, which is cool, I guess. Also, the graphics got a revamp, and I think it looks pretty good. Also, Space Cadet Pinball is back. Yippee! I swear if this version did not have Space Cadet Pinball, I would have crashed out. I was gonna put this version in C tier, but because of the graphics revamp and Space Cadet Pinball being added back, I think I'll put it in B tier. Windows Me, also known as Windows Millennium Edition, is just another carbon copy of Windows 2000. I swear, why do they keep doing this? This is also the last version to run on MS-DOS, so you've done good, sport. Yeah, so you know by now, it's just the same as Windows 2000. So yeah, Windows Me is, well, man, I don't know. I'm so tired of just copy and pasted stuff, but with one slightly different change. It kind of just makes me annoyed. So, I'll just put it in C tier. I don't really care for this one. You guys have been waiting for it. Windows XP. Ah, what a pristine version of Windows. This shall leave a mark in the history of operating systems. However, this emulator is kind of janky. The past operating systems were easy to emulate because there's not a lot going on. But when you get to Windows XP, there's a lot more information and stuff. It's a lot more advanced, so it becomes hard to actually emulate it. So instead, people decide to recreate it as best as possible. Since there wasn't a lot to do on Windows XP, I basically just spent the entire time playing this weird, crazy game. What, you never grew up with this mining game? Man, I feel bad for you. Yeah, that's literally all I did for the entire recording. I don't know why this is all I did. I don't know, I was just bored or something. Even though this emulator doesn't give it justice, I am still putting it in S tier. Out of all the Windows versions, Windows Vista had the most chaotic development, and this emulator doesn't help things at all. On this emulator, you can barely even do anything. It's actually kind of ridiculous. The only reason why I'm not putting it in F tier is because it introduced Frutiger Arrow. So yeah, D tier. Windows 7. What a cultural icon. However, the same problem occurs with the emulator because it just isn't as good. Seriously, if you want to make a video like this, you need to read into emulators, or else you're going to end up with something like this. I didn't really do that much while on Windows 7. I looked at some of the games it had, and also for some reason it had Google on it, so that's kind of funny. Yeah, so again, this emulator does not give it justice, but still, it is another S tier. What is going on? What am I looking at? What is this start menu? What is this supposed to be? An iPad? How did we go from one of the most beloved Windows operating systems of all time to one of the most hated ones of all time? This is actually insane, bro. Alright, let me calm down a bit. So after logging into William Gates' account, you are greeted by this putrid start screen. And why did they make it look like this? It's... Why? I have no idea what was going through Microsoft's head at the time. Like, what is this? This is without a doubt the easiest F tier of my life. Windows 9. Wait a minute. Windows 9 doesn't exist? What? Now why would Microsoft do that? Well, anyway, it's time to talk about Windows 10, I guess. This is the first version in this video where I guarantee most of you actually use this. This emulator is pretty good. It has a little fake Minecraft on it, which I have to respect. That's pretty cool. Anyway, this version still has tablet aspects to it, but they toned it down a lot, which I really appreciate. Other than that, yeah, there's really not a lot to talk about. It's just a fine version of Windows. What else can I say? B tier. And the final version of the video, Windows 11. I really don't have a lot to say about this version. It's just an average version of Windows. It has a lot of features to it, and that's pretty cool. It's also the most accurate one in this video because I don't have to use an emulator for it, so that's a plus. And yeah, Windows 11, B tier. Ladies and gentlemen, I present you the final tier list. Overall, I have to say, Windows did a pretty good job at maintaining themselves. So, what have we learned today? Man, I don't know. You can tell me in the comments or something.
I also